Imagine this: you've been in a relationship for years, you trust him, you believe in him, and then, one day, a small, persistent doubt creeps in. Something just feels off. His words stop matching his actions. His late-night excuses begin to sound a little too polished, too rehearsed. And then, he says 6 words that make your heart sink. Could this be the moment the truth starts to surface? Let's unpack the signs and understand the hidden red flags. Words are powerful. They shape reality. They're not just noise, they're signals, revealing intent, exposing patterns, and when used deceptively, betraying truth. A man who is cheating rarely makes a dramatic confession. Instead, he slips up in subtle ways, slight changes in tone, carefully selected phrases that seem harmless on the surface but carry deeper meaning when you listen closely. Language, in his hands, becomes a tool for control and manipulation, not connection. He doesn't want to be caught, but he also doesn't want to lie outright. So, he carefully crafts his words to confuse, to create just enough doubt to make you question yourself instead of him. It often starts with vague responses. Ask him where he was, and instead of a clear answer like, "I was finishing a report at the office," he'll say, "You know how work's been lately." It sounds like an explanation, but it's actually a deflection. That's not forgetfulness. It's intentional. It's a strategy. An honest man doesn't dodge. He doesn't feel the need to protect himself with ambiguity. But a man hiding something needs space between himself and the truth. And that space is created with meaningless words. Then comes defensiveness. The moment something doesn't add up, he doesn't calmly explain. He gets irritated. Suddenly, you become the problem. He'll flip the script with lines like, "Why are you always questioning me?" Or, "Can't you just trust me?" These aren't real answers. They're emotional shields, designed to make you feel guilty for even asking, and guilt makes people back off. That's exactly what he wants. Sometimes he'll go the opposite direction. He'll be overly reassuring. "You know, I'd never do something like that." Or, "I love you, you don't have to worry." But think about it. If someone has nothing to hide, they don't feel the need to preemptively defend themselves. A faithful man simply lives in alignment with his words. A guilty one lays a foundation of reassurance early, before the cracks start to show. You'll also notice a shift in how he describes things. Instead of saying, "I had dinner with Mark and Jason," he'll say, "I grabbed something to eat with the guys." It's a subtle change, but it matters. The first is specific and verifiable. The second is vague and adjustable, giving him the freedom to revise the story later if needed. That's not accidental, it's calculated. As time passes, contradictions start appearing. He forgets what version of the story he told you. He grows frustrated when you ask for clarification. His timeline becomes inconsistent, and even when things don't add up, he won't admit it. Instead, he makes you doubt your own memory. "I told you that already," or "We've talked about this, you just don't remember." That's gaslighting. It's a psychological tactic to make you question your own reality. Here's the truth. When a man is cheating, his words start changing long before his actions do. The shift is subtle: vagueness, defensiveness, over-explaining, contradictions. These are signs of deception, and the key to uncovering the truth isn't just listening to what he says, it's noticing how he says it. Because words aren't just sounds, they're strategies. And when someone is trying to deceive you, their language will always betray them. The most dangerous kind of manipulation isn't the one you can see, it's the one you feel. It slips into your thoughts, distorts your perception, and makes you question your own instincts. When a man is cheating, he's not just lying about what he's doing, he's actively reshaping the way you think about it. His goal is to make you doubt yourself long before you ever doubt him. Because once you start questioning your own judgment, he's already won. This is where psychological manipulation becomes deadly. It's subtle, it's calculated, and it doesn't sound like denial. It sounds like you're the problem. You bring up something that clearly doesn't sit right, and instead of getting a calm explanation, you're met with a reaction. "Why are you always so paranoid?" Or, "You never used to be like this. What changed?" Suddenly, the spotlight shifts from his behavior to yours. Now, you're not questioning him. You're defending yourself. The entire conversation flips, and without realizing it, you've been silenced. This is one of the most effective deflection tactics manipulators use. It turns the accuser into the accused. And in that moment, you start thinking, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. Maybe I'm pushing him away. And as soon as you fall into that mindset, he no longer needs to hide because you'll do it for him. But it doesn't stop there. Another manipulation tactic, and one of the most exhausting, is gaslighting. It's a term that gets thrown around, but at its core, gaslighting is about making you question your reality. You remember what he said, where he was, what time he came home, and yet, when you bring it up, he denies it. That never happened. You misunderstood me. You always twist my words. He's not just lying, he's making you unsure if you ever heard the truth at all. And that's where it becomes especially cruel. The more he gaslights you, the more drained you feel. Because arguing about reality is exhausting. Trying to explain, to justify, to prove what you know you saw or heard, it wears you down. Eventually, it feels easier to let things go. You stop bringing things up. You avoid conflict. You convince yourself it's all in your head. And that's how manipulation wins. Not with brute force, but through emotional exhaustion. Then comes the guilt. A skilled manipulator doesn't just defend himself. He plays the victim. Suddenly, he's the one who's hurting. He tells you he's stressed, overwhelmed, unappreciated. Maybe he admits to doing something wrong, but just enough to make you feel bad for pushing him there. I wouldn't have done this if things were better between us. Now you're not just hurt, you're responsible for the hurt. Instead of demanding answers, you find yourself apologizing. Instead of holding him accountable, you're trying to make things right. And just like that, you're caught in his trap. The hardest part? When you're inside this cycle, you rarely see it clearly. You think you're just going through normal relationship struggles. You think every couple has rough patches. You begin to believe him when he says you're too emotional, too needy, too insecure. But deep down, something inside you knows. You feel it in your gut, that quiet tension, that emotional distance, that growing sense of unease, even when everything looks fine on the surface. That feeling is your truth, and you need to trust it. Because a loving partner doesn't make you feel crazy for asking questions. A loyal man doesn't twist your reality to protect his secrets. A committed relationship isn't built on manipulation. It's built on mutual respect, honesty, and emotional safety. If someone makes you doubt yourself instead of making you feel secure, that's not love, that's control. And control has no place in a healthy relationship. There's something ancient in you, your instinct, your intuition, that knows when something is wrong. It speaks before your logic kicks in, before you can explain why. And that whisper, that tightness in your chest, that quiet warning, it's never wrong. You know that something doesn't add up. And yet, so many people ignore that feeling. They push it down, tell themselves they're overreacting, being paranoid, imagining things. But that feeling, that discomfort, isn't just noise. It's your intuition. It's the deeper part of you that sees the truth before your conscious mind catches up. And if you silence it long enough, you might wake up one day to find that it was right all along. A man who's cheating doesn't necessarily get away with it because he's clever or careful. He gets away with it because the person he's betraying doesn't want to believe what she already knows. She sees the signs, the emotional distance, the inconsistencies in his words, the sudden defensiveness over simple questions. But she tells herself there must be another explanation, because facing the truth means facing pain, and sometimes denial feels safer than reality. But your intuition isn't guessing. It's not paranoia. It's your subconscious connecting the dots, detecting the change in his tone, the new habits, the increased attention to appearance, the irritability over things that never used to bother him. Your brain picks up on patterns, even if you're not consciously aware of them, and your body knows. Even if your heart doesn't want to accept it, your nervous system reacts. That's why, when the truth finally comes out, so many people say, "I knew it," because they did. Deep down, they knew. They just didn't trust themselves enough to act. That's the real danger. Not just being lied to, but being conditioned to ignore your own instincts. Because when you stop trusting your inner voice, you start giving someone else permission to define your reality. And that is the most dangerous kind of control. Of course, intuition isn't perfect. It doesn't mean jumping to conclusions, accusing without evidence, or expecting the worst from everyone. But it does mean paying attention when something feels off. It means letting yourself explore that discomfort, instead of suppressing it. It's about noticing patterns, questioning inconsistencies, and honoring the signals your mind and body are sending, because pretending everything is fine when it clearly isn't will only bring more pain in the end. And this goes beyond romantic relationships. Learning to trust your gut, to recognize manipulation or dishonesty, is a skill that protects you in every area of life. People who ignore their intuition often end up in situations that leave them wondering how they got there. But those who trust that quiet voice, the one that nags, even when everything looks okay, those are the ones who spot red flags early. They walk away before the damage is irreversible, because if something feels wrong, it probably is wrong. If you're constantly questioning someone's honesty, feeling a growing emotional distance, or making excuses for their behavior again and again, those thoughts aren't random. That's your intuition trying to protect you. And the worst thing you can do is silence it. Boundaries are not just rules in a relationship. They are the expression of your self-respect. They define what's okay, what's tolerable, and what is absolutely unacceptable. They protect you from being manipulated, betrayed, or diminished. And when a man is cheating, one of the first things he does, often without even realizing it, is test your boundaries. Little by little, he starts to push. Maybe he cancels plans more often, but expects your understanding. Maybe he stops telling you about his day, but still demands your trust. Maybe he becomes more secretive with his phone and brushes it off like you're overreacting. These changes are small, easy to overlook, easy to explain away, and that's the trap. If everything changed overnight, you'd notice. But when it's gradual, you begin to question yourself instead of him. When the dynamic in a relationship starts to shift, you might not even realize how much the balance of power has changed, until one day you do. And when you finally question him, that's when the real test begins. If he respects you, he'll listen. He'll acknowledge your concerns, explain himself, and take responsibility if he's done something to make you feel uneasy. But if he's cheating, or simply believes he's entitled to do whatever he wants, he'll flip the script. He'll accuse you of overreacting, of being insecure, of trying to control him. He'll make you feel guilty for expecting something as basic as honesty and respect. This is where many people start to compromise. They begin to doubt themselves. They wonder if maybe they are being too demanding, too intense, not easygoing enough. So they back down, they soften their boundaries. And here's the problem. Once a boundary is crossed and you let it slide, it will be crossed again until it becomes the new normal. Because what you tolerate, you ultimately encourage. Yes, a healthy relationship is built on trust. But trust isn't something that magically exists. It's earned, it's nurtured, and when broken, it must be repaired through accountability. If a man refuses to acknowledge your concerns, if he dismisses your feelings, if he repeatedly chooses his own comfort over the health of the relationship, then what you have isn't trust, it's submission. It's a dynamic where one person takes all the freedom while the other absorbs all the impact. And when that pattern continues, it doesn't just destroy the relationship, it slowly destroys you. It erodes your confidence. It convinces you that your needs are too much, that your expectations are unrealistic, that you should just accept less. And that's how people stay in toxic relationships for months, even years, because by the time they see clearly, they've already internalized the idea that their voice doesn't matter. But your voice does matter. Your feelings matter. Your boundaries matter. The way you feel in a relationship, safe, seen, respected, that's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And if someone constantly dismisses those needs, that's not love, that's control. That's selfishness. That's someone using the relationship for their own benefit without any sense of shared responsibility. The only way to protect yourself from that kind of dynamic is to set firm, non-negotiable boundaries and enforce them. That means being willing to walk away when those boundaries are crossed. That means refusing to be guilt-tripped or gaslit into silence. Because a relationship where you have to fight for basic respect is not a relationship worth fighting for. At the end of the day, someone who truly loves you will never see your boundaries as a threat. They will see them as guidance, as a map toward a strong, meaningful, and lasting connection. So what do you think? Have you ever seen these red flags in your own relationship? Share your experience in the comments. If this message resonated with you, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're building a space where truth, empowerment, and self-worth come first. Let me know what you'd like to explore next. I'll see you in the next video.